Hello and welcome to our very first Stories of Change digital transformation live stream that we're doing this evening. I'm really excited to welcome you to this. It's the kind of first go at getting people to tell their stories and share what they're doing. So I'm particularly looking forward to doing it. And we've got some great people lined up this evening to join us. So we've got Chris Rafferty, he's at Trinity High School, and Alexander Klaus, who is at Stonewall High School. Both of these guys are Google for Education certified trainers, and they've both been working at their schools for the last 3 years. So there's lots of experience there, and they've been really driving and working and supporting with their staff teams to help make change and drive change. So this evening's live stream will have a little bit of input from me, talking a little bit about digital transformation. And this is the first in a series of videos. So hopefully I'll be able to give some kind of tips and some thoughts and some ideas each session. And then we'll have stories from schools that I've been involved with or worked with or know about who want to be able to share and tell their stories. And, in particular, highlight the impact that, they've had. So make sure you say hello and introduce yourself in the chat. The speakers are going to be in the live chat as well, so they'll be able to kind of comment and answer questions. And they'd also love your kind of feedback and encouragement. So do say hello, and we will see who we've got in there. So that's going to be really good. So a little bit then about where this kind of project and this idea came from. Well, I was part of the Google for Education Certified Innovator program, and I was part of the London 19 cohort. So a group of educators from around the world got together in London and basically tried to solve real world problems that we were experiencing in education, and trying to find out how we can make education better. What projects can we do? So my problem was we've got schools that want to change, and they're aspirational for digital transformation, but they perhaps don't know what that looks like, or they don't know how to do it. So I guess I'm focused on helping schools do that by either building the capacity of their staff or giving them tips and tricks to help them along that way. And then once they've gone along that journey, well, how do we share the story so other people can learn from their experiences? And I think that's really important. How do we go about focusing on digital transformation stories of change? So when I think about change, well, transformation is change, and we want to be able to drive change in schools, and schools, whether it's primary or secondary, can be quite challenging to drive change. But transformation happens when both educators and leaders shift the culture and the pedagogy, and if both of those two things are changing and both of them are being driven forwards, then that's what's going to help successful digital transformation. So the question I pose if you were thinking about digital transformation in your own establishment is, what are your drivers for digital transformation? So if you can identify why you want to change, why you think introducing digital is important, and you've got that clear goal and you've got that kind of clear vision that that endpoint that you want to try and get to, then that's a really good starting point. Now, when I think about digital transformation, I actually first off thought it was kind of, well, I'll start here and I'll make some changes, I'll make some introduction, and I'll get some technology in, I'll do some staff training, and then that will be it. We'll be digitally transformed. Well, actually, I think digital transformation is a continual process. We're always looking at how we can improve, and we're always looking at how we can evolve. So, don't view digital transformation as a single act that you're going to go through. It's going to be something that keeps changing, it keeps evolving. But if you keep coming back to what are your drivers for digital transformation, why are you trying to change, then that's going to keep that cycle moving forwards. So for me, one of the big reasons why I think digital transformation and embedding digital technology into the curriculum is so important is it's about the experiences that the young people get when they're in our care and they're receiving learning from us. So, this is where it becomes so important that the people who have the technology and get it set up in schools, so our IT technicians and our IT managers, that's where they are so important, because they can enable teachers and educators and support staff in being able to deliver the experiences when it gets to the classroom. And I've just got a picture here of a group of learners who I took to the Scottish Learning Festival last year, and they got to demonstrate the digital learning that they had been using to other teachers and educators and people interested in the industry from across the country. And I think that was a really unique and a really interesting experience for them. So digital transformation for me is about giving those experiences in the classroom, giving those experiences outside the classroom, but also the use of technology and the kind of wow impact that it can give young people in terms of using, say, augmented or virtual reality in a classroom. Those are memories and experiences that stay with them forever. And everyone looks back on school and has a story that they can tell about it. Well, if their story is about something at the technological forefront and they got excited and they feel empowered about it, then we're going to have more people when they're leaving school being interested in the technology industry. And whether that's in the edtech industry or the wider technology industry, we know it is the fastest growing sector. So having the right people going in there, I think, is so important. So this week we've got a couple of secondary specialists who are going to tell us about the stories of change in their establishment. So looking forward to hearing from Chris and Alex shortly. But just to kind of plug next week as well, there'll be some more digital transformation kind of questions, tips, thoughts from me, and we'll also have a couple of primary schools. So digital transformation is for all types of establishments. So I'm really keen to kind of have that balance between both primary and secondary. So kicking off with a bit of secondary, but heading to primary next week. So if you haven't subscribed to the channel and you haven't got notifications on, then make sure you do that. But we're going to try the 8 o'clock slot again next week. So I'm just going to take my screen out of the feed, and hopefully I'll be able to bring in Chris, who will be telling us our first story. Oh, hello, Chris. How are you?
Hi, how are you doing?
Yeah, really well. Thank you. So you're excited to tell your story of transformation? And the stories
I'm very excited. Thanks for having me on again.
Good. Yeah. So Chris joined us earlier, maybe 10 days ago or so, where we were as a South Lanarkshire Council Google Education Group sharing some idea sparks. So had a really fab input from him then. So I'm really looking forward to this evening's story. Shall I bring your screen in and just kind of
Absolutely.
Fantastic.
Hi everyone. I've been a teacher for 3 years. I teach at Trinity High School in Rutherglen, South Lanarkshire, and I teach digital literacy and computing science. So I just wanted to tell you my story from 3 years ago when I started at the school, how things were done then, and it's probably a similar scenario to in most schools now. How we taught and how we started our journey through kind of migrating from the way that we worked over to all the G Suite for Education products. So our classrooms now are virtually paperless. However, this wasn't always the case. And obviously this isn't just my story, I'm going to tell you the story of my department and how we all went through digital change together. And remember, as a faculty, we were already using digital technology to a good extent, but using the G Suite for Education applications allowed us to make the experience even better for our young people. But really importantly, it made it better for us as well. And I think throughout my story here, I'm going to talk about win-win a lot, because I feel that our transformation has given both our pupils a much better experience, but it's also given us a better experience in making our life a little bit easy, which is really nice, especially as we have limited time. So I am going to talk specifically about 3 applications because I only have 15 minutes. I want to talk about Google Drive. I'm going to talk about Google Classroom, and I'm going to talk about Google Forms because I feel that these are the 3 things that have made the biggest impact, although we have used many others as well. So I'm going to start with Drive, and let me tell you the story about what we had. So like most schools, and this is probably what you're using just now, we had a kind of server-based system where all the files were all in an area which everyone shared. I'd love to get a picture of that now for you, but I can't. But I know what yours looks like, and you'll probably smile when I go through some of the stories because I think a lot of people's shared areas can be pretty cluttered. So a few reasons for that. And let me just stress that at the time, this was a really good solution, but now that we've got new tools, we've got a way of making things easier for us. So when we talk about resource management, it's mostly going to focus on us as teachers. So first of all, if you go into any shared area, you'll find that there's loads and loads of versions of things. You're probably smiling just now because you know what, you've got hire, then you've got new hire, then you've got new hire 2019, and you've all these revisions of things. As courses go through revisions, and you end up with clutter because of that. And you have other reasons for duplication. So not everybody teaches the same, and not everybody likes to use the same resources. So you may find that people want to make a copy of something and put their spin on it. So there'll be another folder which is new hire with somebody else's initials next to it, and another copy with someone else's initials next to it. And these are all really common practices in every school that I've been in, because people want to take it and put their touch on it. And then you end up with duplication because you may share resources with other people in other schools. So you end up with hire with another school's name next to it that's been shared. So there's, again, this becomes really kind of cluttered and cumbersome. So where do you go if you log in? And that kind of system, there's no real ownership of files. So if something gets deleted, something gets edited, and there's not really any way of knowing who it was. And in the same vein, people don't want to delete anything because they don't know whose it is, or they don't know who's using it currently. And obviously, you'll burn in hell if you delete that standard grade folder that nobody's accessed since 2011. So the last point is accessibility. The problem with these systems being local is that as soon as you leave the classroom, then you don't have access to those files anymore without putting them onto a hard drive, USB flash drive, something like that, and taking it home with you. So these are all kind of problems with resource management that we overcame by switching to Google Drive. So for those of you who haven't used it before, Google Drive is an online storage space, very similar to what you would have used in a kind of local system, either on your computer or in school. So we use this as an opportunity to move all of our resources and our courses online, and we organise them nicely. So this is just an example of how we organised our new BGE course. So we've got nice folders for everything, and as you can see on the right-hand side, you have different members as well. So we decided that in moving everything that we were going to create new courses, and we also decided that all of these courses were going to have a particular format. So when you open up any of these folders, this is what you see. We decided that there would be 10 lessons. We decided that there would be one assessment, which is self-marking, and which I'll go into in a little bit. And we decided that there would be a review lesson and then a couple of homework exercises. So by having everything standardized, then it allowed us to easily go in the morning, open up your emails, and because everything's in one system, because we access Google Drive through Glow, you can open up your lesson for that day, and that's you prepared. So you open up one system, and everything's there for you. You know that if you're on lesson 4 in cybersecurity, that there's a Google slide presentation in there. And we decided that all the kids would have a booklet as well within that. So, and everybody could access this stuff anywhere that they were. So either from home or from a Chromebook in school or wherever they are. So this really isn't yet much different from what we had before, except it's a bit tidier. So I suppose for us, it was an opportunity to hit the reset button. But what is different about shared drives, as well as being able to access from anywhere, is that you can set different permissions for different members of the team. So for example, our faculty head is the manager in every classroom, in every shared drive. So this allows her to add people in, take people away. So if new people enter the department, they can just add them in very easily. If people leave, then they can remove them very easily. But you'll see that everybody can have certain permissions. So what we decided were the people who created the unit. So for example, me and my colleague Ian created the cybersecurity unit. We could edit anything about that, but anyone else who could access it would be viewers. And with those different levels of permission, with the faculty head able to add people in and control the content and control the members of the shared drive, with us being able to edit things and with everyone else being able to view it, that kind of kept the integrity of it and it kept things tidy. One thing that I think has really been different for our department since we've gone to this system is I feel like we have become so much more collaborative. So when we launch a new course and put it up there and give people access to it, then we can easily get feedback from them through the comments on slides or by email, and that then allows us to change everything and take that feedback on board and get through different revisions. One of the biggest concerns about going to a cloud-based system is if someone deletes something. So the great thing is that, as you can see from the GIF, in Google, any Google application, everything saves as you go. So as you're typing a word or as you're amending something, it's saving it. Now, at any point, you can click on the link at the top of the page where it says all changes saved in Drive, and you can restore previous versions. So as Ian's already talked about, this was an absolute learning curve for us. And when it started off, we had people deleting things by accident, making copies of things. But it's safe to do so because at any point you can revert back to previous versions. And also if there's someone having difficulty, and you'll see that by seeing who's made the edits or deletions, then you can speak to them and see if there's any additional training needs or show them how to do it next time. So the other thing that's hugely changed, and this is where students come in more, obviously us being organised makes it great for students because it means that we just throw up the slides in the morning and they know straight away, they come in and they're directed to an activity straight away. But really where the G Suite comes into play is when we're assigning work. So there's a few things that have become better for us and for pupils. So ease of access to assignments, file management for the students as well as us, continuity of learning. So now we have the opportunity that when a pupil leaves the classroom, that they don't have to continue learning because they can still access anything anywhere that they go. And we can give feedback as well at any point out with the classroom as well. So the key to this is the classwork tab on Classroom. On there, you can create a variety of different assignments. So we've got the assignment tab first, which allows us to create work on any type of document, which pupils can then give us a return on. Or there's an option for material, which allows us to post resources such as slides on the Classroom for read only. Now, this has worked great for me in the last year with my higher class. And when we go back to school, this is going to be really important because it allows us to have a flipped learning approach where pupils can read the slides before they come to class, and then we're using that valuable class time to assess, do practical tasks, etc. And this will be really important when we go back to school after lockdown. It's something that I've experimented with over the last year, and it's really good, especially for those higher classes, and it moves them closer to that university approach of reading materials before you go to class, and then the class time is more useful. It also allows for, again, continuity of learning because I can put things into different topics, and it means when pupils log back in, then they can either go to the assignment that they were doing before, or if they're looking for something particular, They can go through and pick whichever topic they want. So previously, pupils would, first of all, maybe not save a document and have to start again, not know where they had saved it, all common problems. But with this system, they can go in and they can just start off where they left, either in class or at home, and everything's well organised. Feedback has been probably the biggest win for us. So not only can you see pupils creating an assignment in real time, so as they type, you can see, but you can also give real-time feedback. So as you can see from the example, this is me highlighting a bit on a doc that's been handed in, and by hitting the hash key, I can access a comment bank that I've already created. So all of these comments I've already added in there, and you'll find that there's regular comments that you use, but I can put the comment in and send it immediately back to a pupil, and they can fix that problem. So you'll see that the one I've done there, I'm just saying, well done, but it could be that I say, look, that's great work, maybe try including this, and you can put things like links in there. I can even tag the pupil in it by putting a plus in it in the pupil's email address, which will send an email to them saying that there's a comment being left. Really powerful tool. As well as this, I can leave a generic comment so we can have a conversation back and forward. I can also return a score. So if it's something that I want to give a percentage for or a mark out of, then I can return a score back to them. And we can send this document back and forth until it meets the success criteria of the assignment. Now, talking about feedback, Google Forms, we decided would be the method of assessing our S1 and S2 classes. So there's a couple of reasons for this. The first one is that these assignments can be made self-marking, so you can see that every assessment has 20 multiple choice questions. So that means that pupils get a score back immediately, so they're getting instant feedback. They can see what questions they got wrong. But not only that, I can see all the responses as well and get, on a click of a button, a summary of how the whole class have done. An average, I can look at where some particular questions that have been answered wrong, and again, give pupils individual feedback. Now, the great thing about all of these things that I've just shown you is once this form or assignment has been set up, it can be used multiple times in multiple years. So, for example, this particular assessment has been used for every single class who's done cybersecurity for the last 3 years. So we can actually see across the whole year group who's performing well, who's not, give feedback, and we can look at making changes to courses based on that, or targeting support. So really, really powerful tool. And the last thing that I wanted to speak to you about was using forms to do self-evaluation. So this is a different type of assessment, because what we're doing here is using this to do a monthly assessment of how pupils feel they're doing. So we've got a few questions in there where they rate themselves for effort and homework and a bunch of other things. And for this one, unlike the assessments where it's a test, I give this out once a month, and that allows me to shape learning conversations with pupils as we go throughout the years and look at areas of opportunity for both them and myself. So these are just a few ways that we have transformed our digital courses. As Ian said, this is a journey, so this was a really great exercise for me, because it gave me a way of looking back, and although this has become a way of working for us and we don't really think about it now, and although we had lots of teething problems and difficulties and made mistakes, for example, the first time I gave that cybersecurity test, I didn't put email collection on, which meant that I had no idea what scores went to what pupil. So it is about making mistakes and learning from them. And now I feel that as a department, our experience and the experience of our pupils is almost seamless, and we're looking for ways that we can improve it even further.
Thanks very much, Chris. I really like this idea of moving to a paperless classroom. It's something I've certainly aspired for, but not yet managed to achieve. And I think you're, ahead in that. So that's really good. And just see here, Miss Ryder's comment is saying that she loves the idea flipping the classroom, and I think that was really good. And Mr. Stringer has said, great idea for helping focusing learning conversations. That's really good. We did have a question for you from Stuart.
Yep.
Stuart said, did you kind of make a gradual change from server-based storage to cloud-based, or was it kind of one swoop? How did that happen?
So in my first year, I started migrating everything over. To start with, I was creating documents and other packages and posting them, which then meant that they had to be downloaded. The pupils would change this and then re-uploaded. And that, obviously, there's more power in it than that. By migrating everything to Drive, it allows seamless integration with Google Classroom. And that's why we felt as a department, because we were kind of in the process of standardizing everything anyway, that would be the best way to go. So yeah, I suppose it was gradual, a kind of gradual process. There is on Google Drive, there's a setting which allows you to any Word documents that you upload, it will automatically change them into Google Docs format. Now, this isn't always seamless, but it gives you a good starting place for you to then go in and kind of change things and play around.
Yeah, I think that's a really good tip. And, Stuart said there that the kind of lockdown and the current situation has very much influenced their drive to switch over. But I guess it's going to take a bit of time before we.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting feedback, because a lot of schools are in similar positions, and in being as some of our hubs, some of our colleagues have really been thrown in at the deep end in this, and therefore the kids have been thrown in at the deep end as well. It's really just about taking it one step at a time, maybe putting a video up there to say hello to start with, and then maybe do an assignment. And it's okay to get it wrong, and it may be that you just put up a blank assignment and you ask a question. And the great thing is that when the kids get an assignment, they can actually answer that in any way. So they can add a Google slide, a Google Doc, they can video themselves if they want, and add that as their return to your assignment. So it really opens doors for a lot of different things.
And one of the things I really like on the Google Classroom app is they've got the ability to be able to kind of take photos as well. So even if they're creating something, making something, or writing it down, those options are still available for them, and they can still share that work with their teacher as well. So I can see here Annabelle's work goal for when we go back is to fully migrate, and I think that's one of the challenges that we're facing. So we've got Office 365 as well as G Suite, and then a local school server. So we've very much got stuff stored across 3 areas. And how do you manage what versions do you have where? But I think this situation has kind of said for us our school-based stuff. I get a lot of emails from colleagues saying, "Can I get anything from school?" And I'm like, "No, not unless you're in the building." There's a challenge for the future. So our next story of change that's coming up is from Alex. Good evening, Alex. How are you?
Good evening, Chris. How are we both doing?
Hi.
Very well, thank you. So I'll bring your screen in, Alex, and the stage will be all yours.
Sure. I just move this screen over here, and then we're all good to go. Hi, everyone. So I'm Alex Klaus. I'm a teacher of computer science at Stonewall. And what I wanted to talk about in this live stream for my portion of it is our success stories in terms of digital transformation, because there'll be loads of videos. Like Ian is doing fantastic work getting videos about how we can enact change into the school, what techniques, what services we can do. But I wanted to kind of put a core view on, what have people been doing and what has worked, and what has been their experiences. So just to talk about what I'm going to be going over a bit today, just talk about where Stonewall was when we started our digital transformation journey, because every journey has a good starting point where the adventure begins. I'm going to talk about what we've done. So that's going to be the 2 stories that I mentioned, going to go through who they are, what they wanted to achieve, how they achieved it, and then eventually go on and talk about what we're going, where we're going, where do we foresee this journey not ending, but what's off into the sunset for us. So I got 15 minutes to do it. I did ask Ian for 45, so let's see how I can do with this right now. So where was Stonewall High School when we started our journey? Well, we were in a situation where we had a high number of Chromebooks in our school. We had about 9 trolleys worth 30 in each for about 270. And what we found was that these were great resources. They could be taken into classes, but a lot of what they were being used for was research, Google, just going in and finding some piece of information and writing it down in a jotter. And that is fantastic work. It is good work, but is it really using the full potential of these devices that we have in front of our young people? So we were looking about, okay, what can we do with that? We were also trying to solve an issue of lower engagement with pupils at home. I'm sure all teachers throughout South Lanarkshire and the country have probably had a struggle with homework at one point or another. And we were looking about what services, what can we bring into our school to maybe up that number, try and get the kids a bit more engaged when they're learning from home, which, as you can see here, is now become a very focal point in our society. So we had these kind of 2 issues, and we would talk about how we started to solve them. And the first part was looking at digital transformation at the heart of improvement plans. So around the school, it was always brought up in DMs about, okay, what technology do you want in for your department? What services do you think could help you? Is there anything that any problems that you're not sure how to solve that we can maybe go off and try to find a solution for? And along with that, we looked at the investments in new services and training. So again, as Ian mentioned, I'm a Google certified trainer, and it's only thanks to my school giving me the time and resources to be able to go on and do that so that I could come back and train up our staff in all these fantastic services that we're now very much taken, not taken for granted, but we're now using heavily. So we kind of did that. I went off, I did a bunch of training. I come back and I showcased it to people in the school through DMs and through whole school meetings and just the occasional email out. And, we get a couple of people coming with problems and looking for solutions. That takes me on to our first story. And it's a higher PE class, the story I like to affectionately call The Game Changer. And this is about one of our earliest adopters for things, all Google Classroom things, Gary Shepard at Stonewall High School. He is a teacher of physical education, and he's actually the head of the Stonewall School for Rugby. And he came to me before last summer to ask about ways that he could improve his higher PE classes, particularly when it came to them doing written work. Because what he found was his kids, they excel at the sports part of it, but sometimes dragged their feet a bit when it came to their lessons. So he came to me with a couple of his problems, a couple of reasons that he wanted change. He had a busy and fast-paced department, lots of class sharing. He was worried kids would forget their resources or leave jotters with the other teacher. And when you're working through your portfolio, that stops them dead in the water. He found time sinking for maintaining and accurately recording the pupils' work, because again, filling in spreadsheets more than actually engaging or preparing resources for the kids. And he found providing feedback just to be messy and time consuming, because if you've got 20 jotters in front of you and you need to handwrite the same message over and over and over again, that is not really an effective use of time. And he noticed the pupils engaged better and worked faster on ICT. So whenever he brought them up to the class to do their research or to work on the portfolio, he found he just engaged more. So he came to me, we sat down and it's like, right, what do we need to do to maybe get solutions to these problems? So we started a couple of one-on-one sessions on Google Classroom. I took him through some of the basics, showed him how the assignments work, how the tracking works. Sat down, we created a class so he knows it. I provided him with resources as well, the fantastic series of videos that YouTube themselves have on Classroom, and leave my inbox open for any requirements for support that you would have. And we then went off and we built it. He went off and he built his classroom, prepared his resources. He just went off and experimented with it. Because to be fair, most of the change really happens not when you've had that lecture. It's not when you've had that webinar. It's not when you've seen that cool YouTube video. It's when you go off and actually experiment and work with the technology that you want to use. So he went, he took it, and he ran with it like a rugby player does. And he built himself a classroom, and he started working with his pupils. Now, I had the honor to be able to go into a couple of his classes as they were working and see the things that they were doing. And one big thing I kind of saw from it was he was enthusiastic about the technology being used, and the kids were enthusiastic. We're now at the point where we're getting pretty close to a year since he first came up to me and said, Alex, was this Google Classroom stuff? And so I asked him, what have you seen change, or what have been the benefits that have come from this change in your class? And he gave me more stuff than I could possibly list off here in 15 minutes. So I'm just going to hit some key points for him. He gave accurate records of work for each pupil. So again, as you saw when Chris was talking about the paperless classroom, he was able to track answers, how pupils responded quite quickly. He could provide resources instantly by just clicking on a button and sharing it with the kids, and he could give feedback immediately as soon as they turned in the work, and he can comment on specific sections. He found that worked really well. No more lost or forgotten work. Everyone knows where it is. They could get on it. They could catch up if they missed it. This became particularly important for him because a lot of his pupils in higher would often have days out working on college. So they may miss a day or they may miss 2 days. And this got them an opportunity to catch up outside of the classroom without him needing to set aside time in a lesson for them to do so. And it was easy to differentiate his work, set an individual task per pupil, tracking them, knowing how they are developing. And the big thing, and this is obviously the biggest thing with anything digital transformation, is making sure that it's actually benefiting the kids. And what he found was his pupils were more engaged. They worked better. They worked faster when he was using the Google Classroom because they were getting that instant feedback. They were not having to traipse through their Jotter to find a specific page, to find a specific comment, and then maybe have to go up to Mr. Shepard because, sir, can't read your handwriting. What does this say? So it worked so much better for them. And what he found was that the kids constantly commented about the fact that they wish that more teachers were using Google Classroom. And this kind of warms my heart as being one of the people trying to drive this for use in the school. And it kind of did have, a starting ripple effect within our whole school, because that kind of went to other departments, of one of which is our English department. Now, if Mr. Shepard was our first sole early adopter, the English department is probably the first big department to entirely buy into the Google Classroom and Google G Suite for Education. And so I affectionately call this story Real Pros at Change. I'm not going to apologize for that pun. So this is from Rona Wallace, the PT of English, and we have a couple of testimonials from Ann Dixon and Eleanor Moore that you will be able to see. I won't have time to read them both out in full, but these slides hopefully will be shared by Mr. Vosser to everyone, and you can read them at your own time. So the reason for change for the English department: they were looking for a solution to the senior phase folio feedback. Any English teachers in the audience, you'll know exactly what we're talking about here. Sheets of printouts of stacks of papers, jotters, with all manner of versions of their folio, with all comments skewed across multiple sheets. It was a nightmare for them to organize and for the kids to organize. So they wanted to change how the kids engage with both the folio and with the feedback that they received. And then they thought, well, when we're looking at that, why not look into more tools for supporting the classwork and study just across the full department? So they reached out to me. They had a little look. They shopped around, tried to find the best solution for them, and they came across Google Classroom for whispers among the school and from my probably constant reiteration of it at meetings. And they asked me to come to a DM and present to them Google Classroom, give them an actual training seminar on it. Afterwards, of the 9 teachers in the department, 7 began using it straight away. They got into their senior classes and they built classrooms. They got the kids used to using Google Documents, to taking up their work, to providing feedback, to engaging in that feedback. And it worked well for them because, again, senior phase kids, lots of them may be out of school for different activities. So they could upload work for them, differentiate, scaffolding, providing instant feedback, all really shaped the senior phase curriculum to be a completely different beast from what it was originally. After they found such a good uptake for the senior phase, they decided to start spreading it into the BGE. So again, they looked for more training. They started looking into using Classroom to help help engage previously disengaged pupils. So they went and they found more training for how they can up their pupils' engagement online. They took Google Forms, training on that one, occasionally pop in to see me on it, and started working out for the quizzes and tasks. Simple way to gauge pupil understanding after a new piece of work. And again, key part, personalized and differentiated work. And I've said that a lot, but that is a big thing for the classroom and has been invaluable for their pupils with ASN. For those who maybe don't have a reading age that's adequate to their level, they can put up audiobooks that can go with whatever piece of work that they're working on. So the kids who maybe can't read as well, they can also still engage with the material on almost the same level as their classmates. And they have found this phenomenal. They just, in the school, I used to be the biggest evangelist for Google Classroom. Now it's the English department. They cannot stop ranting and raving about it. They love it so much. And they have went off and done their own support, resources, and training to completely change their curriculum. They actually have now in their own department a level 2 Google educator, Elena Moore, actually one of the ones who provided the testimonials. And all with good reason. They found that the pupils, again, like with Gary Shepard, really engaged with the work that they were putting on Google Classroom. And they've gone to the point now where some of their classes, if I recall, practically their entire senior phase has moved to a paperless solution. So they are now completely done with printouts, highlighters, and markers. They are all on Chromebooks on their devices, and it's making their lives so much easier. And again, it prepared everyone for the unexpected. This was one that when I went to Rona and asked her, what has been some of the key benefits you've seen since you swapped over? She couldn't stress enough how much this prepared them for the environment we're in now, the unexpected. Because when we switched to remote learning, the English department, the majority of the staff had already got the framework, had already got everything set up for themselves. And the pupils had already learned how to engage with the material. So they just come in, a couple of days, everyone getting used to how the new world is, and they hit the ground running, continuing on with the work where they left off. Phenomenal stuff. And again, they're now hoping to really branch out into other technologies to support their learners. So again, they've already looked at Google Classroom for their classes. They've moved a lot of their development work, a lot of their material into Google Drive to go paperless, just like we've seen earlier. But they're even looking into other technologies such as Microsoft Sway and other products to enhance it, because digital transformation never really has an end. It's always about building on top of that. Now, one of the testimonials, sorry, I got this and it was so good I had to include the full of it, but I'm just going to highlight some key points about this one from Ann Dixon. And what she found was that the classroom had encouraged a greater sense of responsibility for her lower ability students, and as they managed their work, and it just helped them because it was a more visual experience rather than stacks of paper or physical books. It was a visual way that they could engage. It made their reluctant writers more confident, as they could keep an eye on how they were developing their work. They could go back and see it later, and just how it was presented to their teachers and how feedback was presented back to them. Folio, again, already touched on that one, the ability for them to quickly go back and view changes, to get specific feedback that they may have received earlier and then act on it, mark it when it's done, have a back and forth with the teacher on the document rather than the teacher having to bring a pupil out one by one. It's all good stuff for them. And very conscious of my time, I'll move on to our very quick next testimonial from Elena Muir. She, again, loved how Google Suite changed her classroom, so much so that she went off and became a Google Level 2 educator to help develop the practice further and to get to know the G Suite even more. She found it easy to use, save her a lot of time for a lot of the same reasons as mentioned previously. So that's the two stories of change in here. A single teacher who has shaped his entire hire and an entire department that have changed how they approach their curriculum. So where are we going from here? What adventure lies before us? Well, again, only some stories have changed. Actively, we have many departments working on many different things. I would probably need another 2 hours to talk about it all. But things like our science department working on Google Forms for quizzes, modern languages, sharing sound bites and lessons through Classroom. And it's only going to get more, it's only going to spread more throughout, especially hopefully after we go back in the summer. Again, next thing is also looking about bringing that transformation out of the classroom and into the whole school. We've already started working on forms for things like parent feedback, sways from newsletters. We've even been using Google Forms as a way to track health and well-being in the school, which is a fundamental piece of information that you need to keep on top of. And Google Forms makes it quick to get the information in, get it from the pupils, and get it analyzed. Been fantastic. And what is digital technology without the actual technology? So we're looking to expand our Wi-Fi to include more devices. We've been investing into C-Touch for the public use in the library so that kids can come into the library with the Chromebooks and have a different experience than what they would have in their own classrooms. And again, just continuing on this momentum from the online learning that we've had, because I'm sure you've all seen it in your respective schools, the amount of work, dedication that teachers are doing to make sure that kids are able to work remotely from home. Hopefully we can take a lot of the lessons that we're learning from this experience and use that to shape our school into a much better digital environment when we get back. At least that is my hope for the future. Thank you all for watching. So that's Stonewall's story of change.
Thank you very much, Alex. That was really interesting. And I really
Sorry, Ian, I was talking to myself for so long, my headset turned itself off.
Oh, well, you're back now and you can hear me. So I thank you very much for sharing those stories. That was really interesting.
Technology, it's great until it doesn't work.
He can't hear me still. Well, I'm going to pick up on Stuart's point, and he's saying that Google Classroom, I bet it's
there
back
we go.
now. Oh, are you back?
Yeah, I'm back.
Yeah, that's good. So
I needed the old turn off back on again.
But that was really interesting, especially your kind of couple of stories where you were focusing on the impact. And I think one of the things you said about was the the framework for remote learning was already set up because Google Classroom was embedded in practice. So that's really, really interesting. And I think that's a real winner. One of the threads I noticed across both your stories was this idea of differentiation.
Yes.
And I think being able to assign, tasks and questions to particular learners, I think that works really nicely. So you can send it to one person, you can send it to multiple people. So our ability to be able to differentiate the materials we send out to learners becomes really easy. And when differentiation is easy, learners are getting work that is appropriate for them, which makes their learning experience more positive. If their learning experience is more positive, they're more engaged. And that's a real positive upward cycle. So, I think that's absolutely lovely to see. So I was picking up on Stuart's point just as you were coming in about Google Classroom really being a game changer. And I think because it's been designed for education and because it is for use in a classroom and to support learning and, as exclusively its role, everything that it's developed and all the features that are included in it are designed to be able to do that. So, the improvement of engagement and being able to link all the G Suite products in as well gives you so many digital tools and it's great to see their digital literacy skills being developed.
Yeah, it's always a great thing with something like Google Classroom because, again, it was built from the ground up to be a classroom. And unlike a lot of other services which may, and let's say, create what they think teachers want, Google Classroom has really engaged with educators heavily to make sure that they know what works for a classroom, what doesn't work for a classroom. And you can see that in the product that they've made.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And one of the things that I also liked hearing about was the feedback from the young people was that they were liking teachers who were using Google Classroom because it was making work accessible for them.
Yeah.
And that feedback, that learner voice, that pupil voice was, coming through loud and strong, which I guess was accelerating your rate of change as well.
Well, that's it, because I can count several times when I've had a teacher come up to me asking about, can you show me how Google Classroom works? Some of the kids have been asking about it. And one of my first big training days, which was after I did a DM for the English department, I had one that was open to the whole school, and we got about 20 of the staff members showing up to it. And one of the staff members came up to me and was like, oh, I'm hoping you can show me how to use this for putting stuff up for the kids, because they've really been getting on at me for using this because they're getting it elsewhere in the school. So it's like,
and when that growth happens organically, it's like, oh, brilliant, I'm really pleased.
Well, that's it, because if it's something that works with the kids will let you know. They want more of that. They want something that will engage with them well and keep them focused rather than just any old service. So yeah.
So I see Stuart, I think my favourite top viewer for the evening, has put up that he's working in Key Stage 2. So, that's more primary based than what we're working on in secondary school. So next week's Stories of Change are from some primary educators from South Lanarkshire as well. So I'm really looking forward to having Annabelle and Leanne on. So please do come back next Wednesday at 8 o'clock, and hopefully it'll be raining, because that will get the viewers up. So well done for everyone who had to come and kind of watch through towards the end here. We're really keen, both Alex, Chris, and I, to get feedback on how the live stream went. What people thought was useful. So even if you're watching this and it's not live, so you're watching the recorded version, please still drop in on the link down below. Yeah, that's good. Alex, I'll bring Chris in as well, and he can point to the link as well. So yeah, do give us the feedback, and we'll read, just like the Google for Education team. We'll bring in, we'll read all the feedback that's sent in, because that will help us make these live streams better, and that will all get reviewed. So thank you very much. Anybody got any kind of last final thoughts? No, we should have rehearsed that bit, shouldn't we?
Well, you were asking us. I thought you were talking to the chat.
Yeah, I thought you were asking the people.
Well, chat as well. If anyone in the chat has got any final thoughts, or either of my fantastic guests, Alex or Chris, if either of you have got any final thoughts on your transformation journeys, then
just have a go. Yeah. To lose, and I think there's obviously a lot of change in education, but this is something that's here to stay, because it's what our young people expect. They're interacting with technology from a young age. And what they're seeing through Google G Suite for Education is what they will expect going forward, and it's what they're going to use going forward in the workplace.
Yeah. And I think you're absolutely right. When they get to the workplace, this idea of multiple people collaborating on documents at the same time to produce things, that is the way of working of the future. People doing things together in real time, as opposed to somebody working on something, passing it to somebody else, and then passing on to somebody else. Everything has become so much quicker. Absolutely.
Yeah. And again, just off of what Chris says, this is just like any other part of your pedagogy. Like, you will go through, you will try new things. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't, but we don't give up the first time it fails. We look at what worked, we look at what doesn't work, we build on it, we move on. And that's the key thing about it, is just putting yourself out there, trying it out, getting the feedback from the kids, seeing what they want, and then let that journey take you where it will go.
I think you make a really good point there, Alex, in terms of give it a go, and sometimes it doesn't work. Well, actually, if you do something and it doesn't work in your digital transformation journey, then sharing what hasn't worked as well as what has worked is equally as powerful, because it will help people avoid the pitfalls or the mistakes that you've made along the way. And, you know, I think sometimes as humans, we can be a bit nervous about sharing things that haven't gone well. So kind of having that confidence, say, yeah, I tried that and it didn't work. I think that's really, really useful for people as well. So if you're going to take away one thing, then give it a go and see what change you can drive, because, you know, digital transformation and the use of digital technology in education is certainly here to stay. So on that note, I think we'll finish up and say goodbye. Thank you very much to Chris and Alex.
Thank you, Ian. Thank
you for having us.
Okay,
thank you, Chris.
bye.